All right, in this video, we're going to talk about how to write an essay, but specifically how to write a rhetorical analysis essay. Now, previously, we've talked about three other kinds of essays. We've talked about how to do a personal observation. We've talked about how to do reader response. We've talked about critical analysis. Rhetorical analysis helps to build on each of these other kinds of essays that we've talked about. There's a lot of similarities. You're trying to make a point. You want to use an outline to organize your thoughts. All those things you've learned already are relevant. Here's the biggest difference for what this kind of essay is trying to do. It's not focused on one specific source material, like it would be with a reader response or an event that you've observed, or in a critical analysis. The biggest difference is that now you're broader in your argument. You're talking about an issue, and you're going to use rhetoric to analyze an issue. And in previous videos, we've talked about how to construct an argument, which is a rhetorical process to prove a point, and you'll be using that here. But there's a couple other things you also want to think about as well. Okay, make sure I'm on the right page. All right, when you're writing rhetorical analysis, you want to start your process even before you start writing. You want to start with an open mind as you start to investigate the issue. And I've talked about in previous videos this process I'm referring to as reason, or a reasoned process, a process where you are using an open mind to research something. So you want to choose a topic that you care about. Now, the trouble with this is if you already have your mind made up, it's going to make it difficult to look at all sides. But you're going to be able to make the most persuasive argument, if that's your purpose, when you care about what you're talking about. Like, there's things that it would be hard for me to be persuasive about because I don't care, I don't know much about them, and I don't want to know about them. Don't do that to yourself. Choose something that you care about, that you can be open-minded about. Does that make sense? Okay. Once you've done that, you also want to make sure that the topic that you choose, that issue, has resources available. Because if you're going to be rhetorical, you're not going to be presenting original research. So that's not something you want to worry about. You want to be able to look at the available evidence, bring it together in a synthesized argument, and present it persuasively to your reader. So it's very helpful if the topic already has resources available. And it's hard to establish that it's an issue without those resources. So there you go. Okay, so again, here's the reason process I was talking about. You want to decide what the topic is, like we talked about. You need to understand the different viewpoints relating to that topic. Look at the evidence that's available to support each of those viewpoints, and maybe it overlaps. Then you want to know how you're going to review that evidence to help you make a decision. And then you need to make a decision on how or if you're going to gather additional information as well. Hopefully you don't have to do that because there's evidence available. Then, when you've got all this in front of you, you need to figure out how you're going to make a decision. Once you've made that decision, you're ready to go to work making an argument and writing your essay, because you've been objective, or at least objective as you can. You've looked at what's available. Now you're ready to explain your decision to others. Now, you don't do this by saying, this is what I think, this is what I feel, this is what I believe, because that's not persuasive to other people, because that's limiting it to you, right? You want to present your argument as if it's fact, because it kind of is, right? If you've looked at all the evidence, then that viewpoint is what you're presenting. So then you want to use argumentation as a process to support that point that you're trying to make. So again, We talked about this in a previous video, but here it is. Argumentation is going to have at least 5 steps, and they might cycle and repeat, but you're going to want to do all 5 of these things. You're going to want to introduce your topic and your claim in the introduction. You're going to want to present evidence that support your claim as you present your main ideas, and you make that thorough. You also want to present the opposing viewpoints of others in the objections. Now, the objections is incredibly important, and it's perhaps the step that a lot of people are afraid to do, but it is also the most effective because it shows that you really understand all sides of the issue. Having done that, then you respond with a rebuttal. Your rebuttal should include your logic to explain why the side that you sided with or your claim is superior to those of opposing viewpoints. Now, that doesn't mean that the others are ridiculous or stupid. It just means that one is in some sort of with some sort of criteria, it's superior to others, and that's what you want. You, in your conclusion, you want to summarize your evidence and explain how it supports your claim. And if you've been following this process, you've introduced your idea, you've explained it, you explain how it relates to others, explain how yours is better than others, and then you just restate things in a very relevant way. If you follow this process, it's incredibly persuasive. It doesn't mean that you'll convince other people, but it's really hard for them to argue against you if all these steps really are done well. And there's that. Okay, so you need to understand argumentation, and as you start to put it into a paper, argumentation can be a great structure for you to follow as you organize your ideas, make your claim, and support it using argumentation. So here's what you want to do. You want to use what you've learned about reasoning and argumentation to make an organized argument that references your sources frequently, effectively, and that ultimately supports the claim that you're trying to make. If you look back all these videos, it explains this process as a whole, but the ultimate concept is hopefully you can make an effective argument, but what's really necessary is for you to enter this whole thing with an open mind, to do some great research, and to be able to make an effective point. So if you can do that, you're going to be in good shape. All right. Well, that's all I have to say about writing this kind of essay. Again, if you have questions, you can ask in the comments below. You can look at some of the previous videos, and I might answer your questions for you. But what it's going to come down to is this, right? It's the thought process that you go through that really makes this work. So put in the time and effort and trust yourself to do it right. I appreciate your time watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.